Welcome to Mentally Speaking. I'm your host, John Nevitt, and this is a podcast to raise awareness about mental illness and to give you a place to share and learn. On our last episode, we covered diagnosis and being diagnosed, and this time we're going to cover educating yourself. You know, when you get your diagnosis, you can go in a million different directions. There are thousands of questions and no answers. But one thing that few people think of at the time is to stop and educate themselves. You know, I mentioned to you in the last episode that mental illness is not your friend, it's a crafty adversary, and it is. And I know when I was diagnosed, the last thing I thought of was educating myself. I was told I had PTSD and that I was bipolar. Oh, yeah. I identified with that immediately. And if you saw my last episode, you know how much I hate that. But I latched onto that like a dog with a bone, and I never let go. And I thought that's how things were supposed to be. And I ended up being tied to the tracks, and the crazy train just kept coming and running over me and subsequently my family over and over and over again for years. And I just thought that's how it was. And sometimes I didn't feel capable of learning anything, but I didn't really know that I should. That's the mindset I was in. So let me suggest to you that here we are, and you have your diagnosis, and one of the most important things you can do now for yourself is to educate yourself. And I mentioned before that mental illness is not your friend. It's a crafty adversary, and it is. And the most important thing you can do is educate yourself. Learn all you can about what it is you're dealing with, what it is you're up against, so that you know how to handle the daily struggles that you're going to have to go through to deal with this crafty adversary of yours. And then we come to the next step, and you may have noticed this in the title of our episode today. You're going to have to learn it forward. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's fairly simple. You're going to have to take all this knowledge, everything you've learned about your illness and about your struggles, and you're going to have to pass that on to those you love. Young, old, it doesn't matter. But you also have to do that immediately. Because the most important thing you can do is to educate yourself and to educate the ones you love. And I'm telling you this from experience. Last year, my oldest daughter sent me a text and walked out of my life forever. Over the years, she was never able to separate the illness from the individual, and I was never able to teach her how. So everything I ever did and everything I ever said and all the symptomatic flare-ups I ever had, she took personally. And in turn, she held me personally responsible. Now, I'm not here to say that there aren't apologies to be made. Yes, oh yes, there are. There always are. But what I am here to say is that without the knowledge and the sharing, no one, not even you, will be able to separate the illness from the individual. And they will always take it personally. And they will always hold you solely and personally responsible. And be very careful, because even you will begin to hate yourself as much as they do. I regret not being able to teach my daughter. For some years, I just wasn't capable. And as the years went by, I assumed that things would get better between us. But they didn't, and they won't. So educate yourself and the ones you love, and do it now. I am happy to say that I did educate my youngest and oldest sons. And we found that a little understanding and knowledge and sharing are the tools that we need to have a successful relationship with mental illness. And I even have brush-up conversations with them to make sure that they've retained everything that we've talked about, everything they learned. Because learning and sharing, it never ends. But there are also people who just won't learn. And you will come across these people in your life as you go on this quest to educate everyone you love and people that you know that you want to be in your life. And there's a difference between knowing about mental illness and understanding it. And then there's a difference between understanding it, the academics, shall we say, and being able to extend a kind and understanding heart to someone with mental illness. And most of the time, these are the people that won't understand the cycles and the struggles that you go through in your life. And regardless of how you try to explain it to them, it will fall on deaf ears. And most of the time, they will hold you responsible. You see, they refuse to separate the illness from the individual. Because if they do, they don't have anyone to blame. They don't have anyone to hold accountable for their crimes. And it's this kind of mindset that is not only unkind, but it's unsupportive and unloving and ultimately unhealthy for someone with mental illness. And again, I speak from experience when I tell you that some of these people, when you try to educate them and offer to sit with them and really educate them about what it is that you go through and the type of illness that you have, that they may even accuse you of using that as an excuse to hide behind your illness, to use that as an excuse for your actions, to use that as an excuse for your depression or your mania. Then some decisions have to be made. And those are all up to you. But I will offer you this. Your mental illness, whatever it is not an excuse. It's an explanation. And I'm going to say that again, just for the folks in the back who may not have heard me the first time. I want this to be very clear. Your mental illness, no matter what it is not an excuse. It's an explanation. And sometimes things just need to be explained and understood. So, learn all you can. Keep learning. Learn it forward to those you love. Keep sharing with those you love. And if you run into speed bumps along the way, oh, believe me, you'll know it. And those will have to be dealt with. And in the meantime, share your story, won't you? Because I sure would love to know how you're doing. Because that is what makes this podcast so special. You. And I can see I'm getting the evil eye again. I have used up my time for today. But if you feel you got a little something out of today's episode, give us a like, won't you? And subscribe to make it easier for others to find us. And I'm so glad that you joined me here today, and I hope to be back again with you very, very soon. And in the meantime, I'm John Nevitt. I wish you love. I wish you hope. And I wish you health and happiness, mentally speaking. Bye-bye.